Hey everyone. Okay, if you can hear me, can you type a message in the chat? I'm really dark.
Wow. Whatever happened to that one? Wind child?
So you can hear me? Okay, perfect. I know you can't see me super well. Not enough light. Actually, let me see. Can you guys see me okay? We are going to get started in just a minute. More people are jumping on here. I didn't know I have to add everyone, so we will. Okay, so if you guys have questions tonight, you can leave them down in the chat. I can pull people up. It depends on how many people are going to come on. So if you have a question, just leave it in the chat and I will try to answer as many of those as we go. I might be able to like pull some of you up. If you want to raise your hand in Zoom, you can do that and I can pull you up on the screen if you'd rather do that. But I think for tonight, this is actually my first time using Zoom for a big class. So that's exciting, but also bear with me if anything goes wrong. And like I said, it's really dark for some reason. It's actually really bright in here, but just must be where I'm sitting and the way the computer is. So I hope you guys can see me okay. We're going to give people a few minutes to hop on and yeah, then we'll get started. I'm excited to teach you tonight. This has been something I've worked on for a while, and I think my husband's really nervous for me because I had him buy all these ping pong balls to show you a demonstration, and I have a lot of water down here, so could get a little sketchy, but we'll see how that goes in a second. So we're gonna get started in like 3 minutes. If you have any initial questions or anything that you want me to touch on, just go over to the Zoom. At the bottom, you should see chat. If you hit the chat button, you can just type in any question that you have, and I will answer as many as I can. So I think a few more people are still coming. So we will hang out here for a second while we wait for those. So I'm just going to leave a message in the chat and then we'll get started. So tonight we're kind of covering how the body works as a whole, but really more than that, what's influencing our body. Because I get asked all the time, you know, what should I eat? And I feel like so many people have all the right answers and they know what they should be doing. It's just this kind of like they're stuck, right? Like it's like you've tried everything and nothing works and we're just so confined to the diet world. So I'm going to hopefully help break down some of that, like kind of free us of that and start to really grasp how our body actually works, because I think it changes the entire game. And unfortunately, there are so many diets on the market and they do love you to be unhealthy and overweight because we make a lot of money doing that, right? And so it does take just a new perspective. So to start out with, I think it's really important that we kind of open our minds to a new perspective. And I don't want that to sound like woo-woo, but it is going to be really important to do that simply because this is very different than the ways of the diet industry. And my little demonstration is going to show you what a diet does and why it doesn't work. So, or that's what I hope to show you with that. So we're going to get started here in just a minute. But like I said, if you can, just hop on to the chat and just say hi and maybe where you're from, just so I know that that's working. I see a few comments coming back up, but I just want to make sure all this is working before we get started. Because if you've ever listened to a class of mine before, then you know that I love to have an open dialogue. Why I really do prefer face-to-face meetings as opposed to this, but this is great too because We can talk all over the world, but I love interaction. So I would love for you to ask questions. If you want me to expand on something, please do that. So I have Joni from Marion and Robin from Florida. So great to see you guys. So if you want to hop on there and do that, otherwise we are going to get started and we can see how it goes. So just to give you an idea of why I'm coming back to teaching classes, I've taken quite a break. I've created some programs and I really just miss that interaction with people and to really understand, is what I'm talking about, is what I'm bringing to the table simplified enough that it's realistic that you can implement into your life, but also that it's, what do I want to say? That we can go at the speed in which you need to go. I don't want to just slap a bunch of information on you. I think there's a time and a place for that. But I think really my whole goal this year is to, on the podcast and on teaching these classes, there's going to be a lot more live classes to come, is to really help you understand how your body works. Because I think if we really deeply understand at a very simplified, basic level, I think it really starts to make sense, the reasons why what we've done in the past maybe doesn't work, and what I'm going to promote for you is going to hopefully help you, or it is going to help you. Like, I have confidence that it will help you. But again, it's just a change in mindset. And really, to start off with, I think what we're doing is we're going about health in all the wrong ways. I think that we have this very external approach to health that is all about what we eat and how much we exercise, and it's all these external stimuli that we think that we can control. But the reality is it's not so much that what we're doing to our body, but it's how our body's responding to that. And that's why a diet might work really well for a friend of yours, but really not work at all for you. You know, like, it's why we can't find one specific diet that works for everyone. And really the reason behind that is because you have to figure out what works for you. Like, in some level, you have to design your own health, because every single body is significantly different from person to person. There is no black and white. It's a total gray area. And I know that can be really disheartening for some, but like I said, I think it can also be really freeing to know that, hey, you don't have to go on another diet for the rest of your life, because that might not work for you. Now, I think it is important to note that we can take foundations from diets that can be really good and play off of them. But I really want you to know that if you've tried everything in the past, I get that all the time. I tried everything and nothing works. Kind of, you're my last resort. Well, I want you to know that you are the answer. You are the answer to your own health story, because you have to be the one to design it. And I want to help you do that tonight. So, like I said, we're going about health in a lot of the wrong ways. I think oftentimes most of people get into the health business because they want to lose weight, right? We all on some level probably don't or aren't satisfied with the way our external body works. And this is very common. I mean, it's estimated that 80% of people in America are looking to lose weight this year, which is an alarming statistic, but it also shows, hey, we're human, right? All of us at some point are going to struggle with our body image and want something else. And so I think that we're going about health in two ways. We can either go about health looking for longevity, which is, what's going to help me stay well for the course of my entire life, what's going to help me live the longest, be free of disease, right? So we have longevity health and we have weight loss health. And weight loss health is the way of most diet industries. They want to see you get quick weight loss. You probably want to be here saying, I want to get quick weight loss. What is she talking about? Don't leave this now. But I think that we have to come back to understanding, okay, there's only two ways in health. It's either for longevity or it's for weight loss. And I want you to get back to longevity, because I think for the majority of us, you really do want something that sticks. Like you on one breath, you want the quick fix, you want the easy button, you want the pill, but on the other breath, you really do want something that you could sustain for the rest of your life. Because you know that some of these diets out there are just a quick fix and they're not sustainable. They definitely aren't doing things long term. So the first thing I want to encourage you is that we have to get outside of this idea that health has to be for weight loss. Like that you want to lose weight in order to get healthy. It doesn't work that way. In fact, when you start to just get into the world of health because you want to lose weight or you want to change an external outcome on your body, whether it's the size of your jeans or how much you weigh, you are fighting a losing battle. And this is exactly what I'm going to talk about tonight. It can't be done that way. And it's all because of the perceptions of our body. So again, we have to come to the fact that we have to get healthy for longevity, which also means it's kind of a journey. It's a longer process, right? And that's okay. But what I've found in this and working with people over the last few years is that people want quick weight loss, but when we take the outcome of weight loss off their life, like if I help you step away from fixating on a number, you can actually start to see your body in a new light, right? Like when we're so concerned, like take working out, for instance, when we're so concerned about just exercising more for the sake of seeing results, it's frustrating because it can take weeks and weeks and weeks for your body to actually start to see progress in that. Exercise is not a short-term solution. It's longevity. It's over the course of it, and there's consistency and discipline that's required of that. But it's over the course or the span of time. And yes, there are quick, fast solutions to lose weight. Keto is really popular right now. It's a really fast way to lose weight. But the longevity of that, as research shows, there's no longevity in that. You know, like it's not sustainable. It's not healthy for our bodies long-term. There's a lot of negative side effects to that. So I think we have to come back again to understanding, okay, the longevity. But in order to get to longevity, we have to let go of the outcome. So I want you to, right now, like if you have a piece of paper, I want you to write what your health goal was. And if it has anything to do with your external appearance, whether that's your weight or the size of your jeans or how you want to look, I just want you to rip that paper up because that is not health. That is a byproduct of getting healthy. It will be done and it can be done, but only in the right mindset. So just rip it up right now on the board. Can you guys see the board? I don't know if it's really well or not. But on the board, I have a healthy you. So I want later on, this is just an activity. Yes, you can see the board. Okay, great. So this is just an activity that you can do later on. But write down, like circle on a piece of paper, what is a healthy me? And I want to go back to this idea that health is not an outcome. And I think that's what so many of us would write, right? Like if you put a circle on a piece of paper and you write healthy me and what that looks like, I think most of us would end with, like I put on the board, weighing 140 pounds, being a size 8, going to CrossFit, no sugar, right? Like this very strict, rigid, perfect picture of what we know health to be. But the reality is this isn't health because what we know about our body is it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, and nothing is static. And so really, health is not an outcome, it's an action. So tonight we're gonna erase all of these outcome-based ideas of what a healthy you looks like, and we're gonna get back to the action of what that looks like, what makes you feel good, because it's there. Then you can start to see the results that you want to see, the results that are natural for your body, that are healthy for your body, and you can start to own that. But again, I think as long as we live in this idea that health is an outcome, we're going to constantly be fighting our body over and over and over, and it really is a losing battle. So I want you to take a piece of paper later or right now and just write a healthy you or healthy me, circle it, and we're going to start to pinpoint some points that a healthy you is. Remember, these have to be action steps, not outcomes, because outcomes, as we know, they're linked to failure. I mean, having an outcome-based mindset is the #1 association with the failure to fulfill that. The reason is because it changes our brain chemistry and it makes us fearful. It makes us scared. And when we're fearful, we get into the stress response in the body. By the way, did anyone listen to the podcast with Dr. Alexander Lloyd? Leave me a comment down there. He talks a lot about the idea of the fear-based mindset and how outcomes create fear in our minds, which create fear all throughout our body. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So if we look at our body, this is my human body right here. This is real creative over here. Oh, you bought the book, Joni? Okay, it's really good. But again, going back to the outcome, based thing. Like I really think the quickest way to kill something good is to focus on the outcome, because that is going to set you up for all kinds of failure. Again, that reduces your chance of longevity just simply because you're in this kind of fight or flight response, which is what I want to talk about. So when we have a basic understanding of our body, which is really important, I think what we're often taught is that we have all these body systems, right? We have the cardiovascular system, we have the immune system, we have the lymphatic system, we have the muscular system. Like we have all these separate systems. This is how biology is taught. And that is good. It's good to know all of that. But what I want to know, and what I think is most important, is not how each specific system is working, but how it's working as a whole. Not its specific vocabulary, but the language, how it's communicating together, because this in the end is what matters to how your body's going to function. Just like when we go back to saying, like, it doesn't necessarily matter how restrictive you are with the food that you eat. What matters most is not just what you put in your body, but what your body does with it. And this is what's so critical to know. So if you're counting anything or whatever, like, yeah, there is some viable research behind calories in equals calories out, but really what matters is not how many you're consuming or how little you're consuming. It's what your body's doing with those. That's what's going to influence the overall health of your body. And I promise, I'm going to keep saying this, but health brings weight loss. Weight loss is a byproduct of health. So if you're here just for weight loss, you have to believe that. But if you're here for other reasons, like health always subsides symptoms. It is the reason that we're doing this. Again, ask questions if you have any, because I want this to be an open discussion. So we have our body, right? And we have all these separate systems that we could talk about. A lot of people want to talk about our hormonal system, but none of them are working independently. They're all working cohesively together. So we can't just say, oh, there's something wrong with my hormones. No. There's more likely something wrong with the scope of your body in general. But there are a few big points to note, and what we're going to specifically talk about tonight to hopefully refresh this idea of how your body works. This is definitely not as in-depth as we could go, but this is just kind of the foundation of what I want you to understand and what I think is going to be important in understanding what is healthy for me. So in your body, right, we have all these systems, but the one thing that's controlling all systems is actually your mind. It's your brain, it's your thoughts. Now, this is really a hard concept in the medical space because we can't grab and capture thoughts, right? Like they're just things floating around that we really can't have a good sense of researching or understanding. However, the majority of the research that's coming out today is really focused on our belief systems and our thoughts. And this is really, really, really impactful because our thoughts are controlling everything else that's happening inside of our body. And just to keep it at a very simplistic level, it's telling our body whether we're in a healthy state or a state of relaxation, or things are going well, like things are going good. We can physically feel that in our body, right? Like our body just kind of takes a deep breath. We can go about our day. We have more energy. We feel better, or our body's going to perceive what's happening as negative, and it's going to go into a stress response. Now, both of these, there's two neurological responses in the body based on what's happening in our mind. And those two are considered the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And these two control every aspect of our body, whether it's things that we can control, like our energy levels, or have more control over, like movement, or it's those unconscious things like our heart rate, our respiratory rate, our blood pressure. All of those things are controlled by one of these two systems. So our body can't be in both. It's either or. It's either parasympathetic, which is considered our rest and digest phase, or it's our sympathetic, which is our fight or flight response. Now, I like to think of our fight or flight response as our survival mode, right? This is when people are saying, I'm just surviving today. I'm just getting by. We can feel this survival mode in our body, even though we maybe wouldn't link it back to that sympathetic mode. But our sympathetic mode is we're just going to talk about the negative first before we get into the good. Our sympathetic mode is our stress response. It's whenever our body perceives, based on our thoughts, something in our environment to be negative. Now, it doesn't just have to do with our mind. It can be other things that we expose ourselves to, like beauty products, all those things that we're not really going to go into today. But anything that your body perceives as negative, as stressful, is going to turn into a stress response in your body. What a stress response in your body looks like is essentially it releases cortisol, which is it's a master hormone. It regulates all other hormones because it's a survival hormone. So when cortisol is in the picture, kind of all your other good hormones kind of cease. They slow down because right now, all your body is focusing on is surviving. And so what happens in survival mode or cortisol is your body signals a release in insulin. Oftentimes your heart rate increases. You tend to hold your breath a little bit more. You just tighten up, right? You just get tense. And that's because your body's starting to produce a lot of energy. It's starting to prepare for the chance that you might need to escape. Say if a tiger is randomly chasing you or something like that. Ridiculous, right? But that's what your body's doing. It's tightening down, it's conserving, it's holding on to, and it's preparing for an abundance of energy. The problem is with survival mode and the way that we face it so often today in chronic levels is that we've exerted all this energy to go nowhere. And so this energy just becomes stuck in the body and we start to shut down. Not to mention every single cell in our body starts closing off. So whenever we're stressed, we actually start seeing all these systems start working on their own. So they're like every man for themselves. You got to save yourself first before you save another person. Kind of like the airplane thing, right? Save yourself before you save someone else. That's what happens with the cells in your body. Your body literally starts to close off, starts to self-protect and shut down. It's conserve, it's hold on to, which means it's holding on to all kinds of fat. It's holding on to toxins and things that your body really should be processing through. It can't do in sympathetic mode because your body is shutting down. Now, what's fascinating about this is that your mind has the ability to control this. And when we get into those 5 unconventional tips that really make a difference. So your body has the ability to control it. So to bring this back to maybe what you're eating and how you're exercising, we could take people of the same weight, of the same height, of basically the same biological background, like 2 twins. This is how they've studied this, 2 identical twins, right? And we give them a piece of cake. Now, one twin could think, I have all kinds of guilt about the cake and why I shouldn't be eating it and how many calories they have, like a really negative mindset about the food that they're about to eat. And they can literally not even touch a bite of that and gain weight based on just their perception and going into this conservation mode. Now, the other one could just fully enjoy that piece of cake and it's doing something completely different inside the body. Like your body's kind of using it and getting rid of it. Like it doesn't have the stress response. Therefore, it's not conserved in the same way that a person just looking at a piece of cake with the wrong idea or their negative perception could have. So we have to understand that anytime we have stress in our life, one, we can't avoid it all, but there are ways to deal with it. But anytime we have this constant stress in our life, whether you're working out just to beat your body into submission, just to lose some pounds, but you really hate it, that's doing more harm than good. Even if you're eating the healthiest diet in the world, if you have a bad idea about it or bad thoughts about yourself, your body's living in conserve. And it will always override every good thing you're doing in order to keep you alive. This is really important to note. And we should love ourselves for keeping ourselves alive because if it weren't up to those instincts and those survival mechanisms, we would not have long lives. But it really is something to be grateful for. But at the same time, we have to understand we cannot overpower that. No amount of healthy eating, no amount of exercise can overpower a bad mindset, negativity, and excess stress. We cannot beat it. So this is really, really important to note as you want to get healthy. And again, it's not to say that we're going to eliminate stress from our life, but we certainly have to learn ways to deal with the stress. And there are some ways that we personally can change how we view stress because really the only thing that we can control is our perceptions. So how we view things, how we view life around us. So again, sympathetic mode. So when sympathetic mode is happening, right, it's firing in the brain. These thoughts are firing different aspects of the brain. It's changing our neurochemicals, which is changing our hormones, and the entire way our nervous system is responding. So again, everything shuts down. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have what's called parasympathetic mode. And this is your thriving mode. This is where you can kind of, the opposite of conserve is release. This is the mode where your body does healing, it does rejuvenation, it loses weight, it makes you feel really good. But this is also the place where you are having a different perception, right? Like you're having the positive thoughts. You're doing things based on what your body does. Like it's a very interactive way to work with your body instead of against your body. In parasympathetic mode, we can't live there all the time, but we certainly know ways that we can tap into that more through resting. Obviously, sleep gets us there, having the right posture in which we sit down at the table, exercising, like moving your body in ways that feel good for you. No one said you had to work out for 90 minutes in an excruciating way that you hate. No, our bodies were founded on just movement, mostly walking. It doesn't have to be beat your body into submission, because if you're doing that, you're fighting a losing battle. Your injury rates go up, your illness rates go up, so many things. So it is important to know that we have to move into parasympathetic mode, and this is really where we're going to find true health, lasting health, and longevity. So of course, I'm going to give you some ways to get there, but does anyone have any questions so far? You guys are kind of quiet over there. But again, the difference in the nervous system inside of our body is going to change the entire hormonal flow, our immune response. It's going to change our entire biology, how your skin is reacting. Your energy levels, so many things. So we really want to get back to that release mode. So I told you I had a whole demonstration. So I'm hoping that this kind of helps you understand how we can get back to parasympathetic mode, because I think so many times we're fighting a losing battle is that we're trying to lose weight and we're trying to get healthy by inducing more stress on our body. We're just fighting our body. So I want you to imagine, let me dump some of that. Sorry, that was really loud. So I have this picture, right? And I want you to imagine that all of these balls are different things in your life, whether positive or negative. They're just things that you're putting in your body, whether it's a new diet or whether it's food that you're eating, chemicals you're putting on your body, thoughts that you're having, relationships, all of these. It could be work stress, financial stress. It could be a relationship with your kids. It could be a great experience. All of these things, our body is constantly absorbing things into our life, whether good or bad, like I said. But they're all being stored inside of our body. That's what happens. Our emotions are being stored. The food that we consume is being stored. Our perceptions are being stored. So we have all of this stuff stored inside of our body. And this stuff starts to get congested. Like if we're not releasing if we're not allowing this to just flow out of us as soon as it comes in, it starts getting built up. And what happens when it gets built up is you gain weight and you get sick and your body literally gets congested and you lose energy, because your body is putting energy into every single one of these balls or these stressors or these inputs that you're putting inside of your body, and all your energy is flowing there. So what happens is you just start to kind of inflate. You start to get bigger and heavier, and you hold on to more things, and life feels more chaotic, and it's pressure, right? I think that pressure is that when you feel that pressure, it's like your body's just expanding, trying to hold all of it in. I think this is a really common way that we used to live, is that we would just hold and suppress and store. And the same thing goes with food. If you're holding and suppressing and storing emotions, you're holding and suppressing and storing food as well. So we have all of these balls in here, and we have our body, right? But so what we do, or what we think is the solution to this, is that we start to go on a diet, right? Or we start to do something what we would consider somewhat extreme. And so diets are extreme, whether you're counting calories or you're going to go keto. What happens is it's like a pendulum. And if you follow my emails, you've heard me talk about this a little bit before. But health is very similar to a pendulum, and that when we want to do something, or we want to see a change, what often happens is we put all of our energy That's why we live for health. We put all of our energy into a diet and we tip to one side. And you might lose a few balls, right? Like you might lose a little bit, like you see a little bit of weight loss, but eventually you're stuck here. Not to mention there's force. Like I'm using work, muscle to pull this up in one direction. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to exhaust the ability to maintain this. Just like we know, statistically speaking, 100% of people who eliminate or go to a small amount of calories will automatically go back in the opposite extreme, no binge. On the other hand, it's just like the laws of a pendulum. When you push something up 30 degrees, it's going to go 30 degrees in the other direction. So you might actually start to store things. But do you see how this constant pendulum is not only not getting rid of all the junk that you need to get rid of, like you're still there, still unhealthy. You might have lost some weight, but you're still unhealthy. And you're constantly exerting all of your energy into these diet extremes, into these lifestyle extremes. But what your body is doing is it's fighting for homeostasis. And your body is constantly, like I said, it's either going to work with you or against you. And the only way it's going to work with you is if you come back to a place of center, right? Come back to balance. We're going to talk about what balance looks like, but this is, again, where you have to kind of define your own health journey or design your own diet plan and exercise plan and what a healthy you looks like. But the only way to get here is to come back to a place of balance. And you might think, okay, that's great, right? Like I get that. Like I get that there's no work here, right? You're just maintaining this. But how do you get rid of all these excess junk inside of your body? Well, this is where the action comes into play, where the action of your health comes in, is that we have all this other stuff and we think that if we're just here, nothing is working. But the reason when you're at center and nothing is working is because you forget that the only way to heal yourself is to fill yourself. So filling yourself can look like a lot of different things, but it's literally things that make you feel good. And that's where this little water demonstration comes in, right? Like the only way to get rid of the ping pong balls is deeply at the root of it is to, this is getting really heavy, is to fill yourself up. Do you see how that gets all the way down to the root? And if I had more water, obviously these would all come out, right? But it's not just taking off the surface level. It's not just taking off the weight, which is a Band-Aid approach to health. What filling yourself does is it gets to the root. It gets to the deepest level and allows yourself to release all of those. I don't have any more water, but this was supposed to go all the way up. But do you see that's the only real way to get rid of those? Now, when you're filled up a little bit, if you do decide to, go on more of a detox regimen for a short period of time or try prolonged fasting, when you're filled up, you're more easily able to release some of those balls too. But again, you have to remember that that takes work and you'll always go to the opposite extreme. So the best place is just to be in balance and to fill yourself up. We really have to get back to a place of filling, not fixing. And every email I get, I swear, is if I could just find something to fix myself, I would be happy. But I think that's one of the greatest lies that we have, because when we're trying to fix ourselves, we're constantly on this pendulum, swinging back and forth, exhausting ourselves, exhausting our bodies, living in a constant battle, and that we can never fully find health. And it's because we are not working with our bodies and choosing to fill ourselves back up. So how do we fill ourselves back up, right? Well, I really think that the only way to fill yourself is to love yourself. And I know that sounds really cheesy, and I didn't want to say it, but I really believe it's true. I think so often we go on this pendulum swing because we hate where we are, which means we really hate who we are. And we hate the fact that we can't fix ourselves. So we constantly put all of our work into something that is not supposed to be the source of all of our energy. Our health is supposed to give us energy to go out and live, not be what we're supplying all of our energy to. And so really, to come back to a place of balance and to fill yourself, you have to like yourself. Like, you have to see your body for what it is and to recognize what it's been through. You may not like it, but you certainly can love it. And I think this is really, really important, because I think without loving yourself on some level, you're never going to get to a healthy place, because you can't lie to your body. Dr. Alexander Lloyd proved this. He said there's lots of research that's happening that you cannot lie to your body. Your body knows best, and it knows when it's not telling the truth. So again, you have to figure out how to love yourself. And I think what that means, again, is doing more of what fills you up. And what I mean by that is, we all know what's good for us. I don't need to sit here and tell you that vegetables are better than Oreos. That's not what you need to know. You know that. You've been drilled with that. You know what it looks like to live healthy. What you haven't figured out is how to love yourself enough to fill yourself up with those foods because you love it. Do you kind of see, like, I wish I could see your face right now to see if this is resonating with you. But I really want that to be clear, is like, we know how to be healthy. It was born in us. We know how to be intuitive, but at some level, we've let the stress of life, we've let life overwhelm us to the fact that we can no longer love ourselves. And why I say that is because we let so many external stimulus affect us and be the culprit around us that we really can't get back to that place of understanding what does our body need. And if we go back to a biological perspective, our body is constantly talking to us. It's constantly communicating with us, but we're just not aware of it. So my first point of 5 that I want to give you is awareness. We have to develop some kind of awareness to our bodies, whether you honor your hunger and your fullness. And what I mean by honor, you eat when you're hungry and you stop before you have to unbutton your pants. You have to live aware of, is that food making me feel good? I might like it, but does it make me feel good long term? We have to live aware of when we're tired, when our bodies are physically fatigued and we just don't or shouldn't, do that hardcore exercise, because that's going to harm us more than it is good. Which, here's a little statistic for you. Did you know the number one cause of what they would consider quote unquote hormonal imbalance for women is women actually strenuously exercising outside when their body needs it? So what I mean is they're physically strenuously exercising, like during their cycle, and the week before their cycle. They're pushing their body when their body is already stressed, which is doubling the stress, causing harm. It's doing the opposite that it should be. And they've studied this based on injury rates in females, and almost all injuries in athletic females happen around the time of their cycle, right before or right when they're menstruating. Fascinating, maybe just for a science nerd like me. But again, we have to get back to understanding and listening to our body. Some days that food might sound really good, other days it can't. So one is awareness, just being aware of your body. And we can't teach this, you just have to experience this. Awareness is none other than just paying attention, right? Paying attention to your body. Sometimes it's best just to record things, to write things down, to understand how you feel and what's affecting how you feel. Because you're going to start to pinpoint, maybe this relationship is affecting the way I feel more than I realize. Maybe the financial situation is what's causing me to hoard down. It doesn't just have to be food and exercise, but anything that we encounter in life is having a biological effect on our body. So being aware, because if we're not aware, then we can't figure out how to fix this, right? Like we can't figure out how to fill ourselves up. I shouldn't say fix, fill ourselves up so that we can live in health. But if we don't start providing what our body's asking for, again, you're going to constantly be at odds. But when we start providing, when our body's asking for something and we start to provide that, that's when you start to work together in like this harmonious fashion. And I promise, like intuitive eating is becoming a more popular term. Like there's a book called Undiet. I haven't read it, but I know that they're talking more about this. Everyone's like, no, I can't stop when I'm full. You can stop when you're full, when you're aware and when you're loving yourself. Because the most loving thing that you can do for yourself is to not put yourself in unnecessary pain. And unnecessary pain comes in unhealth. No one's body is unhealthy because of your body's choice. No one's body wants to be overweight. Like that's not necessarily where your body wants to be. It wants to be healthier than more than you will ever give it credit. We just have to understand that maybe some of the things that we did there or we've done over time has led us to those things, but most certainly it was not your body's fault. Your body is not your quote unquote victim of this, or they're not the victim, the evil one in all this. Your body is working desperately to keep you safe, but you have to remember that being overweight is actually a safety mechanism to your body. I know it leads to other things, but in the time, in the moment, it really is a survival mechanism to the body. Joni asked, do you find meditation or something along those lines helpful with awareness? Certainly. Like, you have to create space and silence. And also, I think we also have to start to learn to trust yourselves. So stop looking so much for outside sources to tell you what you should be doing. And you have to start trusting yourself enough to recognize, okay, this might be good for someone else, but this certainly isn't good for me, or it's not making me feel well. And I think so much we've been taught that you have to push through the pain in order to feel or reap the rewards, right? No pain, no gain. But the reality is that we can't put our body into unnatural pain. Discipline is different, but unnatural pain where our body's physically feeling ill, or joint pains or anything like that, or hunger, just to see a result. And so, yeah, so anytime we can find stillness, really just creating an awareness. And I think it's really important in this, and awareness is that you find time throughout the day. Like when I went through my whole health journey, I started to journal. And I've never been a writer. I thought diaries were crazy and ridiculous growing up. But it really did help me to just journaling, help me connect with what I was thinking and feeling and areas where I was hurting that I would never have been aware of before. And it really, like, without the knowledge of what's going on, we can't fix that, right? Like, we can't solve that solution. And I think so often we just live with these external views of ourselves without ever going on the inside and really trying to understand, okay, what am I feeling and why am I feeling this way? So awareness is number one. Number two is we have to start to learn to release some of the stuff that we're holding on to. And I'm going to get to some really practical points at the end, because I know you want, like, what can I do right now? These are all things that you can do right now, but again, they're a little bit not quote unquote nutrition related. So I will provide those for you because people want those, but we have to start to learn to release things, right? Again, if we just have if we're not filling ourselves up, then we're just starting to store all of these ping pong balls, whether it's good or bad, and we just hold on to those. So some ways that we hold on to those, we create tension in our body, aches and pains. Again, we hold and store emotions, but we also, in the process of holding and storing emotions, will hold and store excess fat and nutrients and things like that. So we have to learn ways to release things that have stopped us. I think it's so important in the health journey that we go back and we deal with trauma. I really believe that no one escapes childhood unharmed at some level, that we all have some level of trauma. And I think it's really important to note that some people are physically hiding behind their trauma with weight, where we're building up walls with weight. And this has been studied. Again, this is not just my knowledge, but we do know that. We do know that there is a security measure, not just physically for our body, but mentally and emotionally for us, that if somehow we can escape and become invisible to the world, we will. And sometimes that means you literally pack on the weight of the world in physical pounds. And so we have to start learning to deal with that. Forgiveness, forgiving yourself is really, really, really critical as well. But again, journaling, working with therapy, kind of letting yourself bring those up and let go of them. Just little daily things that you can do to help cope with some of the stress response is when something at work happens, kind of just take a step back from it, like say like, okay, I see that this is a problem, but I do not have to hold on to this problem, right? Like, I can deal with this problem, I can get through this problem, but I do not have to hold on to this problem. And it's, again, just the mindset, just the awareness of understanding I see this could potentially be something that I could hold on to for a while. Any other grudge holders out there, like myself, but that's only going to stir more bitterness, which is going to lead to more stress response and really just unhealth in the body. So releasing things that we don't have to hold on to. Number 4 or number 3, we're on number 3, right? Is that we have to deal with stress. We don't just have to try to eliminate it because that's impossible, but we have to learn ways to manage our stress. And I think this can be done with food, and I think this can be done with exercise and other things. I think a lot of people think it's just like self-care, like bath bombs and cozy slippers and sitting in front of the fireplace. That's fine. Like that can be really good, but only if that is actually a way to fill yourself up. So I think when we deal with stress, it has to come back to a place of, okay, what is going to make me feel good? What is going to help me release this? What is going to help me stand in this? What is going to help me make the best decisions all day long? Because there's something about willpower that we also rely on, and willpower is directly associated with energy. And again, I think there's so many things in life that we're giving energy to. We're exhausting our body doing things that we do not need to do. Every emotion we hold on to, every ping pong ball is taking energy from our body. Every single one. And so our body starts fixating around these things, and we question why we're so exhausted all the time. And it's because our body is physically using so much energy to hold on to stuff that we do not need to hold on to. And it's the same thing with diets, right? When we go into that diet, that pendulum, right? It takes work to stay here. So much energy. But if we just come back to balance, then our body can use all that energy to restore ourselves, to lose the excess fat, to go out and do the things that you were really purposed here to do. That's where we want to get back to, a place of balance. And again, it has to come back to what is going to fill me up. This is, again, where you have to design your own health. What things light you up? For me, it's being outside. I love being outside. And again, this is another example of we don't just get energy from food. We get energy from other things, a lot of other things, right? Some people it's working out, not working out to beat your body into submission, but some people find a real relief from going on a walk or being a runner. Those can be all really, really great things. It could be getting a massage or meeting a friend for coffee. They're reading a good book. We all have to find ways in our daily life to kind of unwind and to start filling ourselves back up. I found that the best time to form habits that fill yourself back up are really in the morning. So more of that morning routine. That's the best time of the day to really start working on your life. So one just practical tip is to analyze what you do in the morning before you go to work and think about what is just one thing, even if it's 5 minutes, but one thing that's going to make me feel good right away in the morning. Plus, if you compound that, we know how you start your day is often how you're going to end your day. So doing something first thing in the morning is not only the best time to form a new habit or a new rhythm or routine, but it's also the most impactful throughout the course of your day. So one thing in the morning, maybe it's you wake up and you just sit and you read a good book, or you journal, or you just go outside and get 10 minutes of fresh air, even if it's cold outside, right? We know all of that stuff can be filling. So I want you today to pick one thing tomorrow that you're going to wake up just 10 minutes earlier to do and to start implementing. And I think one thing will start to recognize how good that makes you feel, and it'll lead to another thing and another thing. So fill yourself up, find daily practices and make them non-negotiable. I have like a list. Obviously I first wrote it down. Like I literally made a 5 checklist thing of things that would help me de-stress. So in the moment when I needed to take a step back and release, series of deep breaths, turning on a music or a song that I like, going outside for a quick 5-minute walk, or just standing outside for 5 minutes somehow made a difference. Getting up to go make some hot tea. So make a list of like 5 things that will help you unwind, to help you de-stress. These are things that are just going to become routine in your life, but to start with, it is really important to note them so that you don't have to think about them, because thinking is also exhausting. Number 5, what number are we on? 4, is to change your perceptions around what you're doing. We don't have a lot of control in life. We certainly can't control the outcome. I wish I could tell you exactly how much you should weigh at a healthy weight. We have no control over the outcome, unfortunately. But what we do have control over is our perceptions based on the healthy things that we do. So if we go back to habit formation, habits are built based on emotion. And I feel like I'm kind of probably going all over the board, or what feels like all over the board, but this stuff is really important. And I think it all ties back together. when we talk about our perception, right, that's just how we're perceiving different things in the world. And everyone's going to do this differently. But those perceptions are what's signaling how our body's going to work. So one thing that we can do, and when we talk about habit formation and why so many diets don't work, is because we try to basically overhaul our complete life. And those habits we try to make become negative, right? They're not enjoyable, so we don't stick with them. And then we feel like a failure, which makes those habits carry a weight of shame on top of just not liking them. And so healthy things can be really hard to stick with. That's why the diet industry has burnt out a lot of people. So I want you to go into things with a new idea and a new perception of this, because I think you're here because you want to be healthy. You desperately want to be healthy. The only way you're going to do that is that you enjoy the things that you do that are healthy. That's the only way for longevity. It's the only way to create healthy habits. In fact, the more positive the habit that you start, the quicker it's going to stick. So when they say habits on average take 6 weeks to do, that is strictly based on no emotion. When you bring emotion in, if you do something and you physically, thoroughly, mentally, emotionally enjoy that, you will do it over and over and over and over and over again. So the same goes with food and healthy lifestyle and changes. So the last few tips I'm going to give you are very practical. And the reason I'm telling you this right now is because I want you to have a good mindset about them, because that is the only way that these things will stick. So again, habits are directly related to our emotional response. So if we're positive about that, that habit will stick and stay around and become a routine. If it's not something you like, it eventually, you're just going to burn it out. You're going to hate it, and it's going to come with shame and all kinds of bad feelings and negative responses inside the body. So if you want to start a new habit, you have to put a positive emotion about it. So for instance, if you want to eat healthy food, you can't sit down with a plate of vegetables and say, I really hate this, but I'm going to force it in my body. Well, of course, that's not going to work. It's not going to last, and your body's not going to like it. It's not going to use it in the same way as finding food that you actually enjoy that's healthy, coming to a place, I really do enjoy this, and it makes me feel really good. Those things are going to stick. So don't overhaul your diet. You have to find those few habits that you want to implement, like that one thing you're going to do tomorrow morning to fill yourself up. It has to be something that you actually want to do and you enjoy, and putting a positive spin on this. In the same breath, you could kind of undo bad habits by creating some kind of negative emotion around them, which is not a positive thing to do, but by simply overriding that habit with something more positive, because the most positive habit is always going to win out. So the thing you enjoy the most will always beat out all the other things, because really life is supposed to be enjoyed, and our body fights for that more than we do. So again, habit formation, changing your perception. So this is just another way to be aware. Every time you come down to sit with food, I want you to think, what are you thinking about this and yourself right now? And is there any way that you can put a positive spin on that? Because if we don't, again, it's changing the entire course of our body. Same goes with exercise. Maybe tomorrow you break free of the exercise that you've been doing that you really hate, or maybe you get out of bed for the first time because you're like, you know what? I really do enjoy walking, and I just gave you permission to say that walking is the number one exercise for longevity. Moving your body. It doesn't have to be for 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be for 40 minutes. You could wake up, go outside for 5 minutes. Just put your shoes on and try it and enjoy it. Put a podcast on. Just walk in nature. Invite a friend to go. Make it a positive experience, not something you dread. Because if you dread it, you won't do it. And the last thing, and the very, very practical nutrition tips, is that we have to be consciously aware of the posture in which we come to the table. And what I mean by that, and then we're going to get into questions, so bear with me. But what I mean by that, the posture in which we come to the table, so many people are coming to food in a sympathetic state. We're coming to food stressed and overwhelmed and overworked, and we're just shoveling food in our mouth while we stand over the sink, or we're eating our breakfast in our car or behind our desk while we work. We're rarely actually sitting down at a table to enjoy our meal over good company. And there is a massive biological difference in what your body will do with that. So even if you're eating a healthy meal, say a salad, but you're just shoveling it in your mouth over the sink, your body is not doing what it should with that, as if you're sitting down at a table with maybe someone like a coworker, or you're just sitting down by yourself and you're just paying attention to that. So your very practical tips is 1, sit down to eat your food. This changes the response in your body. Parasympathetic mode can be achieved standing, but it's most apt to be achieved sitting or laying down. So standing always signals to the body that there's more alert. Not saying that we can't reach parasympathetic mode in the standing position, but it's very, very, very difficult. Parasympathetic mode, it happens when we're seated. And when we're seated, it's also going to change the digestion. Because when you're in sympathetic mode, when you're in this fight or flight response and you start shoveling food into your mouth, your body's not digesting that food well. So what's going to happen? It's going to sit in your stomach and it's going to cause bloating and gassiness, and it's going to change your gut bacteria, and it could cause heartburn or irritable bowel. It's going to cause all kinds of digestive problems. Not to mention, it's going to do that for the rest of the day. So every meal is going to be slower to digest because you just kind of wreaked havoc on your digestive system, because in the sympathetic mode, it doesn't want food. It can't digest food. Like, just think, for instance, like people who eat a bunch of food and then go out for a run, that's not going to go well, right? Like, it's going to come back up, or you're going to feel terrible and have to walk. We can't eat in a sympathetic state. We have to eat in a parasympathetic state. So 1, tomorrow, at least just give me tomorrow. 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the morning of something that's going to fill you up. And then every single meal that you consume, I want you to sit down to eat it. Not sit down in front of your TV, not sit down in your car, but sit down at a table and actually consume your food. And again, that changes the posture. And the last thing that you can do to actually help digest the food and help your body use it in the right way is to take a series of deep breaths before you consume your food. And deep breathing actually helps move you into parasympathetic mode. Remember, when we're stressed, we tense up and our body tenses down. We take very shallow breaths. But a series of deep breaths of inhaling for 4, exhaling for 8, that's pretty common way to take some deep breaths. Even just 4 of those can actually help move your body from sympathetic mode to parasympathetic mode. It tells your body, hey, I'm preparing to eat. And why, like, prayer used to be a very common practice, actually, so many religious practices that we have actually help prepare our bodies in this parasympathetic mode. And why religion and spirituality are so important that we didn't even cover tonight, but very, very important in our health, is because it changes our perception to our body. So again, taking a series of deep breaths. So those are the 3 things I'm going to give you. 10 minutes of filling yourself in the morning, sitting down to eat all of your meals tomorrow, which, by the way, I like 3 meals, maybe 4 if you add a snack, but you don't really need any more of that than that. And taking a few deep breaths before you consume your food, really kind of getting in a state of digestion. And again, that's going to change the course of how your body uses it and how you feel when you eat it. Not to mention, did you know that people who sit down to eat their food consume significantly fewer calories than people who consume food in a sympathetic state? So not only do we consume more food in a sympathetic state, but we can't break it down anyways. And it just goes into conservation mode where we just store more of it and hoard more of it. And one little last fact that I'm going to leave you with is that these deep breaths actually are how we release excess fat. It's how we release excess toxins. Yes, fat doesn't melt. It's not necessarily burned as energy, but fat, when we lose it, is converted to, yes, ATP to be burned, but most of it is converted to carbon dioxide. So you're not going to lose weight. The only way to lose weight is really by taking or breathing it out. You're going to lose all of your weight in breath. In fact, everything that we consume is lost in breath, other than dietary fiber, which is lost in our bowels, but everything else is mostly lost in our breath, a little bit in our urine as well. But anyways, side fact. So those are the 3 things I want to leave you with. And again, really it all comes back to this healthy you. So the last thing I want you to do is I want you to go through and I want you to put some action behind a healthy you. Like, if you close your eyes and you envision, what does a healthy me look like? not outcome wise, not what size of jeans am I in, not how much do I weigh, but what is she doing in a day or he doing in a day? What are you wearing? Who are you encountering? What does your life look like? Start to write that out, because what I used to think was a healthy me was a certain number on the scale. It was a certain size of jeans. It was how I looked. But what I realized about it is that wasn't me at all, because the way that my life was living was chaotic, it was overwhelming, and it was stressful. I was beating my body into submission. Was it working? Yeah, but it wrecked me. I got really, really, really sick doing everything right. I literally was working out a couple times a day. I owned a gym, so that was easy for me to do. And I was eating really, really well. And I ruined myself. I almost had a cancer diagnosis. I was malnourished. I mean, I had all kinds of terrible things going on. I was in the beginning stages of kidney failure, a lot of really, really awful things. And I was 29 at the time, things that shouldn't have been happening at my age. And so what I learned was that that was not a healthy me. Is exercise and movement a part of a healthy me? Certainly, but it's not beat my body into submission exercise. Now it looks more like doing some strength training when I feel like it, or going out for a walk, run. Those things actually fill me up and make me feel good. And I have a good association with them now, but I don't have to do it to get my next PR. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying that there's an association of like, this is good for my body. And more than just getting specific exercise, just walking places, getting out and being in the sunshine, that makes a difference to me. I know what foods make me feel good. It's not because they are quote unquote the healthiest all the time, right? But they make me feel good and nourished and healthy. And that's what we want to go through. So I want you to take this healthy me and on your piece of paper, and I want you to write up as many things that you can relate to as a healthy me. It could be in relationships. As you know, my husband and I are getting counseling because that was an area of contention. That was an area of stress in my life that needed to be dealt with, and it's made a world of difference. Financial things could change. Maybe you're adding so much stress to your life and doing things that don't really matter. So we really have to go back to that. So I want you to work on that. I'd love to see that. Please email me at alexa@simplerootswellness.com. Let me see this. But really, that's it for my presentation tonight. I just want to remind you that you can't beat your body into submission, and you can't lose weight to get healthy. You have to get healthy to lose weight. And it's an entire body, mind, soul, body approach. And really your body is just a byproduct of your mind and your soul. So I'm going to stay on. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, yes. Some of you wanted just to preview an idea of what you're going to learn inside my Health Made Simple class. If you're already in, I'm so pumped for that. This is a sample of it. Health Made Simple. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to simplerootswellness.com/health made simple. I believe that's all one word. My husband left me a note with that here. If he's on and I'm wrong, he can tell me differently, or you can find it on my webpage. That starts next Thursday night at this exact same time. I am limiting the course to only a few people because I want to be personal with you and help you on this journey. So if you want to learn more about that, you can find that out over there. Please leave some questions if you have them. I'm going to answer as many as I can. And like I said, the Health Made Simple class, I know it's an investment, but really at the end of it, I want to help you create and design your own health plan that you never have to do another one again. That's my goal with the class, is that really I'll just give you a foundational level, because I really believe what we need to know about our body is simple but profound. And I think we're just taking such a deep dive that we can't quite grasp the whole concept of it. So we kind of got to zoom out and put this all together. So Joy, I will see you next week. I'm so excited. Allison, you're in next week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this is helpful. And even if you're not going to do the Health Made Simple class, you will be seeing more of these coming, including some seasonality ones, because I'm a huge believer in seasonality. So I think this is a fun way to just deliver information and learn from you. And I would love to hear how this goes for you in the next few days. Really, more than anything, I want to learn from you so that I know how to better deliver content and what is actually working. So please email me and let me know how it's going. Again, that's alexa@simplerootswellness.com. So does anyone have any specific questions? Anything at all? again, if you're not going to do the course, you maybe don't have the finances or whatever, you just don't have the time. So the course is going to be delivered on Zoom, just like this, one or every other week on Thursday nights. If you can't do that on Thursday nights, you can get a live, or you can get the replay of the course. And I'm giving 2 weeks in between. This is strategic because what I'm going to give you every week is a mind lab and a health lab. So every week you're going to go home and you're going to start to actually develop and put together your own health plan. Like, you're going to design this, and by the end of the 8 weeks, you are going to have a plan that is lasting but not static, meaning you know how to ebb and flow with it. It's going to be really good. So you'll have a week of class, 2 weeks off, but we'll be exchanging things throughout it. Now I'm shutting down at this point. I'm an early to bed kind of person. But we're going to be communicating back and forth in those 2 weeks, and do some Q&As and work personally with me on designing your own life, or on your own health plan. So anyways, yeah, so no questions. I don't see any questions coming up. If you are watching this on the replay, again, you can always email me at alexa@simportswellness.com. Ask any questions that you have. I really am one of the rare ones online that answers all of their emails personally. It might take me a few minutes, but I will get back to you. I do value you and really want to see you change. And so please, by all means, let me know how things are going, good, bad, and different. And remember, just because something's not working right now doesn't mean it's not working long-term. And also, just because it's not working doesn't mean you're a failure. Just doesn't mean it's not ever going to work. Your body wants to be healthy. You just have to pinpoint what that is for your body. Joni, am I going to offer another Health Made Simple in the future? I have gotten this question over and over and over again, and I think it's partly because of time. And when I'm doing the live classes, I totally get that. As of now, no. And the reason I say that is because in the process of this, I'm really working on another project, a book, if any of you have heard. And these people in this class are actually going to get some pretty sweet deals and bonuses that are going to go along with that. So if you're in the class already, like, those are surprises, spoiler alert. However, I might take the material and create some videos where you could go through it on your own speed or on your own time. So while it might not be live, I might take some of these recordings and wrap it up into a class that you can do at another time in the future. So I am kind of throwing that idea around because I have been asked this question numerous times, and I have to think it's because of the time. But here's if you're on, and you can give me any feedback about this, but here's what I'm kind of going for, is that I really feel like we're all telling people how to fix themselves, right? We're telling you, you have a problem and here's your solution. But we're not teaching you how your body actually works so you can be the solution. Because none of us have the solution. If there was a solution out there for your weight and health problems, don't you think we would have solved that by now? Like, don't you think someone, in all the years of coming up with this and all the trillions of dollars that have been spent, we would have had an answer? But what people aren't teaching is, how do you make a health plan that works for you? And so I really want to, this year, and become my new mission, is to just teach people the simple truths about how your body works, and therefore you can simply learn the awareness needed to create your own health plan. So I think, Joni, there will be a class that will come in the future based off of what I learned through this course, what's working well for people, where I could maybe expand on and create something based on this that will be available in the future. But I am this summer hoping to start with, yes, I'm going to start doing, it won't start now because I'm putting 100% of my energy into this class. But this summer, I'm going to start doing monthly live classes on different specific topics, like our hormones and our immune system and seasonality and all these things. So if you want that, that's going to be coming this summer as well. But right now, like, all of my energy is going into this class, and I'm so pumped about it. And I know that Robin and Joy and some of you are going to be in it as well. So anyways, any other questions? I hope it wasn't like drinking from a fire hose. I hope it gets you fired up in a new way to do health outside of scary health. Like I'm not in it. I'm not in that. And what I'm learning is that I think we can lose a lot of weight and get really healthy. We can lose a lot of weight, not get healthy, but lose a lot of weight in really unhealthy ways. And it can look like we have it all together and like our body is really fit. And I don't even know, but I feel like sometimes going to too low of a weight is just another way that we hate on our body, another way that we lack confidence. So in this whole process, I just really want to get people back to just understanding a love for themselves, understanding why they were here, like why we were purposed here, because I think like that matters, right? Because we weren't designed and put here, and our purpose here isn't to live for health. And that's what so many diets are making us do. We're just strapped to it, and we're strapped to the scale, and we're strapped to counting, and we're confused and chaotic, and life just feels suffocating. And that's not what health is supposed to be. Health is supposed to be a means and a tool to get you out to live and do other things. That's where we're going to go. Yeah, Robin, I'm so excited for you and to get started on this as well. Anyways, anything else? Otherwise, we're going to log off. I can hear my kids roaming around upstairs, so hopefully that wasn't too distracting for you. They did actually pretty good. I feel like my husband's been bribing them upstairs to stay quiet as they're getting for bed. Bedtime's usually not this quiet, so he's got something up his sleeve up there. So again, Health Made Simple, if you want in, simplewellness.com/health made simple. You can get all the details. It's going to be a really personalized experience, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. But also, just if you're new around here, check out the podcast. There's tons and tons of free information on those podcasts that is so good. This week, I released one all about the truth about hormones. So if you haven't listened to that, check that out. Next week, I am talking about exercise and the truth about how to exercise so it works for you and what that looks like. And then we have another interview with a fascia expert. So fascinating. So anyways, keep me posted. That's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for staying. I assume there's no more questions. I don't see any coming in. But again, if you want to or have any questions as the night goes and as you're kind of processing this and breaking this down, please send an email to me. That's at alexa@simplewellness.com, and I will get back to you. So otherwise, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry this lighting seems a little wonky. I'm glad I didn't spill water all over myself in this demonstration. Anyways, you guys have a great night, and I will see or hear from some of you in Health Made Simple. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next live class.